Welcome to Sleep Narrations. You've arrived at a quiet place where nothing needs your attention and nothing asks you to stay awake. There is no story you must follow, no detail you need to remember. Everything here is meant to move slowly and gently fade. Tonight you can simply listen, or you can let the words pass by like distant sounds in the night. The narration will continue on its own at an unhurried pace, designed to soften your thoughts and ease your mind into rest. If you fall asleep, that is perfectly fine. The story does not mind being unfinished. So take a comfortable breath. Allow your body to settle and let the night do what it naturally does. Before the story begins, before the first walls were built, imagine a world untouched by time. A world where the earth stretches endlessly, where the sky is wide and the wind moves freely. There are no buildings, no roads, no fences, only open land where every step is a new discovery. The trees rise high, their branches reaching for the sky. The rivers flow without borders, their waters moving slowly, unhurried, just as nature intended. The air is fresh, filled with the scent of earth and leaves. There is no need for walls, no need for shelter. The earth itself is the home, the sun the clock, and the moon the marker of time. Life moves without pressure. No alarms, no schedules, just the rhythm of nature, the rising and setting of the sun, the changing of the seasons. Here, there are no walls to separate the world. Everything flows together, without boundaries. The land, the sky, the animals, and the humans, all in harmony, all one. There is no rush, no hurry to build or create, only the quiet existence of life, living with the earth, not apart from it. And for now, it is enough to simply be, to walk the earth and listen to the stories it tells. The narration begins. Before homes were built, the world was a vast, open place. There were no walls to separate the earth, no buildings to cast shadows over the land. The land stretched out in all directions, unbroken by roads or fences. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of the wild. The trees stood tall and strong, their branches reaching for the sky. The rivers flowed quietly, their waters clear and unbroken. Moving freely through the land, the animals drank from the same waters, and the birds soared above, their wings cutting through the open sky. Humans, too, lived in this wild world. They had no homes or shelters like we do today. Instead, they sought refuge in the natural world. In caves, beneath the shade of trees, or by the warmth of a fire under the stars. There were no roads to follow, no paths to guide them. The humans walked freely across the land, feeling the earth beneath their feet. Their footsteps blended with the rhythms of nature, moving with the rise and fall of the sun. They followed the winds, the changing of the seasons, the cycles of the moon. They lived by the earth's time, not by the ticking of a clock. At night, they would rest beneath the stars. The sky above them was vast, a sea of shining lights that seemed to stretch forever. There were no walls to hold them in, no roof above their heads, but only the night sky stretching endlessly. They did not need shelter, because the earth itself provided everything they needed. The trees offered shade, the rivers offered water, and the animals provided food. The world was ever changing, but the humans lived in harmony with that change. They did not fight against it, but flowed with it, as the rivers flowed through the land. There was no hurry, no need to rush. Everything came in its own time, and life simply existed. The world was a place of constant change. The winds shifted with the seasons. The rains came and went, and the land was ever changing. But it was not a world of fear or uncertainty. It was a world where every moment was lived in connection to the earth. Life moved slowly, and there was no hurry to build or to create. Humans were not alone in this world. The animals roamed freely, the birds soared in the sky, and the land was alive with sound and movement. In this world, time was measured by the rise and fall of the sun. It was a world without clocks, without the need for shelter or protection. It was a world where the earth itself provided everything. Here, there was no need for walls. The land was open, free, and the world was vast and endless. And in this world, life simply existed, without the need for structure or form. It was enough to simply be, to walk the earth, and to live with the land. In a world without walls, life moves to a different rhythm. It is not the rhythm of clocks or schedules, but the rhythm of nature itself. The sun rises each day and sets when the time is right. There is no rushing, no hurry to start the day, no rush to end it. The animals, too, follow this rhythm. The birds wake with the dawn, singing their songs as the world stirs to life. The deer wander through the fields, moving slowly, not in a hurry, but at the pace of the earth. Humans, too, follow this rhythm. They wake with the first light of the sun, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath their feet. They move through the land with purpose, but not with urgency. The work of the day is done in harmony with nature. There are no deadlines, no pressures to complete tasks in a certain amount of time. Instead, the work flows with the land, the planting of seeds, the gathering of food, the building of shelters, all done in their own time. at the rhythm of the earth. As the day stretches on, the pace of life slows. The animals begin to settle in for the night, and the world grows quiet. There is no rush to finish, no sense of urgency. Everything happens in its own time. As night falls, the world becomes still. The stars appear one by one, marking the passage of time in their quiet, steady way. Humans, too, rest with the earth. They sleep beneath the stars, in the warmth of the night, unhurried, unbothered by the passage of hours. There are no clocks to wake them, no alarms to disrupt their peace. The earth wakes them when it is time. When the sun rises again, they will wake too, ready for another day. And so the rhythm continues, slow and steady, not forced, but simply flowing with the natural world. There is no need to rush, no need to fill every moment with activity. In this world, life is enough. The work, the rest, the waking and sleeping, everything happens in its own time. And in this rhythm, humans and nature are one. The world moves at its own pace, and there is no rush to change it. This is the rhythm of life, a quiet, steady beat that carries all things through the days and nights. A rhythm that connects all things, the earth, the animals, the people, and the stars. As time passed, the rhythm of life began to change. The world was still vast, but the seasons became more unpredictable. The winds grew colder in the winter, and the rains came harder in the spring. The earth was no longer as gentle as it once was. Humans began to feel the sting of the cold, the bite of the wind. The nights grew longer, and the dark began to feel more threatening. In the past, shelter had been provided by the earth itself. The trees had offered shade, and the caves had provided warmth. But now there was a need for something more, a place to call home, a place of safety and protection. The earth still provided food, the rivers still flowed with water, but the world was becoming a more difficult place to live in. The elements, once a gentle part of life, had become fierce and unpredictable. The first shelters were simple. They were just walls made of stone and wood, barely more than a temporary refuge. But they offered protection. They offered warmth. They offered safety from the cold, from the wild animals, and from the dangers of the dark. At first, these shelters were small, nothing more than a space to rest. But over time, they began to grow. They became more elaborate. The walls grew higher, and the roofs were covered with leaves and branches, keeping out the rain and snow. As the shelters grew, they began to offer more than just protection from the elements. They became places of gathering, where families came together to rest and share. The fire in the center of the room provided warmth, and the walls kept out the cold. The shelter became a symbol of safety, of stability in a world that was constantly changing. It was a place to call home, a place to feel secure. But it was not just protection from the elements that the shelter provided. It also offered a sense of belonging, a connection to others. In the shelter, people were no longer isolated. They had a space to gather, to share their lives and stories. As the need for shelter grew, the shelters began to take on new forms. They became more permanent, built to last through the years, designed to withstand the harshest winters and the hottest summers. The walls became stronger, made from stone, from clay, from brick. The roofs were no longer just leaves and branches, but solid structures that kept out the rain and snow. In time, the shelter became the home. It was no longer just a place to sleep at night. It was a place of family, a place of memories, and a place of peace. And so the shelter evolved. From a simple, temporary refuge, it became a permanent part of life. The need for shelter had given birth to the home, and with the home came a new way of living. A way of living that was no longer in harmony with the wild, but in control of the land. The birth of homes was not a sudden thing. It was a slow, gradual process. The need for shelter had been growing for centuries. At first, the shelters were simple, small, temporary places to rest. But as the years passed, people began to build with greater intention. They began to shape the land, to mold the earth into something more permanent. The first homes were not just shelters. They were expressions of human need, of the desire for protection and security. The walls grew taller, stronger, and more solid. They were no longer made of branches or stones, but of mud, clay, and wood. The roofs became more stable, built to withstand the elements. Inside, the homes were designed for comfort. The floor was covered with straw or animal skins. The hearth in the center of the room provided warmth, and a fire that could be tended to day and night. The fire was not just for cooking or light. It was a symbol of life, of community, a place to gather and share. The home became a place of rest. It was where families came together to sleep, to eat, and to relax. It was a place of safety, where people could shut out the dangers of the wild. The walls protected them from the cold and the predators. But the home was more than just protection. It was a place of identity. The walls of the home marked a boundary, a place where the outside world ended, and the world of the family began. The home was a symbol of belonging, a place where people could be themselves. As homes became more permanent, they began to reflect the changing needs of society. The first homes were small, but as communities grew, so did the size of the homes. The homes began to have separate rooms, each with its own function. The sleeping areas were separate from the cooking areas, and the hearth was moved to a central location. There were rooms for storage, and sometimes even a space for work. The walls grew higher, and the roofs became more intricate. Homes were built to last, with foundations that could withstand time. The materials used in construction became more varied. Stone, clay, and wood were used in combination, each material chosen for its strength and durability. Homes became not just a place to live, but a symbol of human achievement. The need for shelter had sparked a revolution in building, and the homes that followed reflected the growing complexity of human life. The home was no longer just a refuge from the elements. It had become a place of comfort, a place to live, to love, and to create. And in this way, the home was born. It was the foundation of human civilization. It was a place to rest, a place to grow, and a place to belong. From the simple shelters of early humans to the homes we know today, the home has always been more than just a building. It has been a symbol of humanity's need for connection, security, and a place to call their own. And now, as the day ends, we are reminded of the rhythm that has always been, a rhythm that carries us through the hours, through the seasons, and through the moments of life. The world moves at its own pace, without hurry, without rush. Everything happens in its time, in its own rhythm. As you listen to the quiet of the world, feel the peace that comes with simply being. There is no need to worry, no need to rush. Everything unfolds naturally in its own time. And as the night settles in, know that the rhythm of the world will continue. It is enough to simply rest, to let go, and to feel the calm. In this moment, it is enough to be still. The world will continue, but for now, just rest. The night will guide you into sleep, and the rhythm of the world will carry you gently through. Good night.